Welcome to the Man of Recaps. This is Severance, Season 2. At the end of Season 1, our innies working at Lumen made a plan to tell the outside world how bad their life is down here by activating the overtime contingency. In the outside world, Mark S. made a mind-blowing discovery that he knows his Audi's supposedly dead wife. She's Miss Casey, the wellness director, who's being kept in Lumen's secret basement. It was an epic cliffhanger as Mark S. ran to tell the party she's alive, right as his Audi took back over. So Season 2 picks up right there as Mark S. finds himself back at work. He runs through the labyrinth of Lumen hallways, but Miss Casey can't be found. Her whole office disappeared. Soon Mark is reunited with the rest of his friends here in macro data refinement. He's welcomed back by the assistant floor director, Mr. Milchick, who's been promoted to floor director. His replacement is Miss Wong, inexplicably a teenager. Milchick explains that their rebellion was a huge success. They're famous whistleblowers now for severance reform. Lumen is committed to making life better here on the severed floor, and so congrats, we won? But we see in the outside world, nothing's really changed. They assume Mark Zinni was talking about someone other than his dead wife Gemma, because that would be crazy. Lumen apologizes for his Zinni taking over, call it a glitch, and they blame everything on Miss Cobell, who Mark was already suspicious of once he learned his neighbor was secretly his boss. A bigger splash was made by Helly R., who discovered her Audi is Helena Egan, daughter of current Lumen CEO. She had a large platform to announce that she's the innie and her life is a living hell, but they managed to sweep it under the rug. Her Audi just announces it was a joke. But now as the innies swap stories about what they saw in the outside world, Helly lies, says she was just alone in her apartment. Is Helly just embarrassed to admit that she's an Egan, or is this her Audi undercover? For now, life goes back to normal as macro data refinement gets back to work. We still have no idea what they're doing. They seem to be just randomly sorting these numbers, but now we learn it has something to do with Mark's wife Gemma. As promised, our innies get some new perks. Dylan G was super excited to find out his Audi had a family, and so they arrange visitation with his Audi's wife. It's a little weird at first because this version of her husband doesn't know her, but then it's actually kind of fun, like meeting him for the first time when in real life their marriage is a little stale. Irving is excited for his hall pass privilege where he can go visit other departments and reminisce about his lost love, Bert G. But this woman recognizes the mysterious dark hallway that Irving discovered his Audi had been painting and is where Miss Casey is being held. She gives him directions to where it is, more on that later. Mark's mission is to find Miss Casey, since apparently she's his wife. It's a little awkward because Mark and Helly have a romance going, but they decide Miss Casey's not my wife, she's my Audi's wife, so this is fine. Their investigation takes them to the room from last season where someone was nursing a baby goat. Yeah, that's right, what's up with the goats? Well, it turns out behind this room, they've got a whole field with a bunch of goats. But the department working here is very weird, and we don't get any answers about the goats. Audi Mark starts investigating too. His sister now thinks his innie saying she's alive was talking about Gemma. Mark tries to communicate with his innie by burning a message into his eyes, which is just never gonna work. But now he gets a visit from the ex-Lumen scientist who we met last season, and it's like, hey man, I'll save you the trouble. I know your wife is alive. If he's gonna save her, Mark needs to know what his innie knows, and the only way to do that is to undo the severance with reintegration. It is a slow process though, and for now he and his innie just occasionally get flashes of each other's lives. But now there's a very strange day at the office when the innies wake up in the wilderness for a Lumen outdoor camping retreat. This provides an exciting opportunity for Mark and Helly to get it on. But Irving has stayed suspicious of Helly's story, and now she messes up. He fully believes this is her Audi. And turns out he's totally right. This has been Helena Egan spying on them the whole season. But of course, attempted drowning of your boss is a fireable offense, and Irving B is terminated permanently. Essentially, his innie is executed. And they're not hiring a replacement for Irving. They fully remove the fourth desk. But Mr. Milchick is convinced to at least hold a funeral for Irving, complete with his melon head. Irving's Audi, of course, is still alive, and we don't learn much about this, but he's working with someone investigating Lumen, apparently. But now someone's following him. Turns out it's just Christopher Walken, Bert G, who remember the end of last season he was banging on his door. So Irving comes over for a nice dinner where they talk it all out with Bert's Audi's husband, and it's a pleasant evening. But turns out Bert's Audi is a Lumen enforcer, and it looks like he's gonna kill him. But Bert feels bad, he wants to be a good guy now, and he figures if our innies fell in love, well, maybe there's something there. Least I can do is let you go. So Helly finally comes back to the office and is quickly brought up to speed. Now it's an awkward conversation for Helly and Mark as he reveals, your Audi tricked me into sleeping with her. Helly soon decides the only way to make this right is for us to recreate that moment, so they find a makeshift tent where Mark and Helly actually get it on, and it's sweet as these two are truly fallen in love. But Helly's Audi orchestrates a meet cute with Mark. What's her game here? Well, it kind of just seems like she's jealous of her innie because her own love life is not great. So Mark tries to speed up reintegration, which doesn't go well, and we get a flashback episode of how he and Gemma met and fell madly in love. But their relationship was strained a bit when they had trouble having kids. And now we see what Gemma is up to. She's apparently voluntarily agreed to do these experiments for Lumen, where she visits a bunch of different rooms, each with its own severed personality. They seem to contain a bunch of bad stuff, like this one is always at the dentist, and this other one, it's always Christmas, but just the part of writing thank you cards. We can probably assume that Lumen is working to expand Severance out of the office for all inconvenient parts of life. And now we get to see that the work Mark is doing is in fact building these separate rooms. And the final file he's working on now is the mysterious Cold Harbor that the Lumen higher-ups are very excited about him finishing. But Gemma now starts to realize she's not here voluntarily. Once she finishes the final room, Lumen's gonna kill her. And so she tries to escape, but of course once she goes up the elevator, it's her severed personality, Miss Casey, who takes over, and Mr. Milchick just politely sends her right back down. Now Mark wakes up from his brain damage, and his sister decides this reintegration is way too dangerous, sends the scientist packing. She has a different idea to get help from Mark's former boss, Miss Cobell. Miss Cobell is a Lumen true believer who saved the day last season by warning them about the overtime contingency. But instead of being rewarded, Miss Cobell realizes Lumen's gonna kill her. So she goes back to her hometown, which used to have a big Lumen plant. And as a kid, she did a Lumen internship, which we now realize is what's going on with Miss Wong. Anyway, Miss Cobell hid her secret journal here, where it turns out she invented Severance? But Lumen stole the credit from her, and now that they've had a falling out, she's ready to maybe take them down. Now, Cold Harbor is almost complete, but Mark calls out of work sick for his secret meeting with Miss Cobell. Mr. Milchick gets chewed out for this by his supervisor, Mr. Drummond. In fact, he's been unreasonably harsh on Mr. Milchick all season, gave him a bad performance review for things like using too many big words. For indeed, an endearing element of his identity is his imaginative eloquence. And now Mr. Milchick is starting to realize that even though he's given his life to Lumen, he'll never be one of them. So he tells this guy, devour feculence, which of course means eat shit. Dylan, meanwhile, has been enjoying his time with his Audie's wife. In fact, one day they start smooching, but when she comes clean to Dylan's Audie, he does not take it well. And it's tragic as any Dylan has fallen in love, but she's got to break things off. Then Helly gets a visit from her Audie's father, who's a super creepy guy that watches his daughter eat eggs every morning. He tells her his daughter is a huge disappointment. He doesn't see Kier Egan in her, but when any Helly goes to almost stab him, he does see Kier in her, so, watch out for that. Now, Miss Cobell sneaks Mark into a secret severed cabin where they can have a chat with his innie. They fill him in that as soon as he finishes Cold Harbor, Miss Casey, Gemma, will be killed, so they need to rescue her tomorrow. And they set up a conversation between Innie and Audie Mark because the balcony is unsevered so they can leave each other messages. He's like, look, once you rescue Gemma, I'll finish getting reintegrated, then our minds will be one again, and you can live our real life. But Innie Mark's like, whoa, I mean, that's your life. I have my own life with my own friends and my own love. Audie Mark's like, oh, that's right. I heard you have a crush on Helena Egan's Innie. That's cute, man. But what I had with Gemma, that was real love. And he's kind of condescending about it. It turns into a heated argument as our two Marks do not get along. So Innie Mark goes back to work for Cold Harbor completion day. He fills Helly in on what he's learned. And she's like, well, my Audie would never get reintegrated. And it's tragic as these two realize there is no happy ending for them. So Mark completes Cold Harbor. And to celebrate this momentous occasion, Lumen outdoes themselves. Milchick comes in with a full marching band for the greatest music dance experience yet. But now Helly distracts Milchick so Mark can go to save Gemma. She locks Milchick in the bathroom where Dylan comes in with the vending machine. Helly makes a big speech to the marching band, who apparently is their own severed department. And it's like, look, we may only have half a life, but we're still gonna fight for it. And so as Milchick breaks out, all the innies are standing up to him. Meanwhile, down in the basement, Gemma goes into Cold Harbor, and we finally see what's inside. It is just the crib that she and Mark tried to build. The scientist over the speaker just tells her to disassemble it, and so this new innie gets to work with no emotional response, which is apparently a huge success. And so Lumen's big master plan is still very unclear. It's probably something more than creating innies to assemble furniture. But we do learn more about the goats, because one is brought in to be sacrificed. Why are they sacrificing a goat? Is it just symbolic? Does it serve a purpose? Who knows? But the sacrifice is interrupted by Mark trying to get into the secret hallway. Now that Cold Harbor is completed, they were probably going to kill him anyway, so Drummond sets about it right now. But Mark is saved by Goat Woman, who doesn't want to kill any more of her goats. So Innie Mark takes Drummond hostage, but as they're heading down to the basement, Audie Mark takes over, and his finger twitches. He wakes up covered in blood. But he makes it to Cold Harbor room, where he finds Gemma, but her Innie, who doesn't remember him. But eventually he gets her to trust him, and when she leaves the room, Mark and Gemma are reunited. In the elevator up, they're making out, until they reach the point where Miss Casey and Innie Mark are like, why are we kissing? Innie Mark gets her to the fire exit, but he's not coming out himself. He's decided he's gonna fight for his own life and his own love. So Mark and Helly hold hands as they run down the hallways together, with no idea of what's gonna happen next. And that's where Severance Season 2 comes to an end. If you liked this recap, hit that subscribe button for more of the best recaps of TV and movies.